Hi, I'm James Barfield with Your Urban Connection. And remember, this is the channel that is often imitated but is never duplicated because of the fact that most others won't talk about the things we talk about here on Your Urban Connection. So, tonight's show is going to be about a situation that I have been watching for a period of time now, at least over 1 year. And I feel that it's now time for me to shed my 2 cents worth on this story as far as I know. Now, the story involves a man by the name of Herman Jones. And Herman Jones happens to be the superintendent of the Kansas Highway Patrol. Now, Mr. Jones happens to be a black man. And I don't know Mr. Jones personally, as I've met him only one time, and that was back, I believe, in about 2014, I believe, when he at that time was the Shawnee County Sheriff. Now, I met him at the Hutchinson Police Training Academy. I believe that's what it's called. And I was there serving as a member of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. And we had a little seminar over there, and I happened to have a brief conversation with Mr. Jones, and that's my only contact with him. Now, the basis for this story is, as I said, Mr. Jones, since 2019, March of 2019, has been the superintendent of the Kansas Highway Patrol. Now, as such, in 2021, I believe it is, Mr. Jones was sued by 6 women. Now, let me say right off the bat, I have no idea as to the identity, as to the race, as to the length of employment, or any other thing of such nature about these 6 women. And I might add that one of the 6 who originally sued has been dismissed from the case. But anyhow, these 6 women at the time in 2021 alleged that Superintendent Jones, the state of Kansas, had been involved in, now I want to be sure I get this correct. They charged that the agency had been involved in unwanted touching, sexual harassment, and comments. Now, these women filed a lawsuit after 2 investigations, one by an outside law firm, had looked into these allegations and made the determination that these allegations against Mr. Jones were unsubstantiated. Okay? They were not proven to have any merit. However, these women went to court, filed a lawsuit, anyhow, and they included an assistant superintendent, and they also said that it was a culture. It was a culture of sexual harassment, retaliation. Okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I hear the word culture, to me, that involves a number. A number. And number mean more than 1 or 2. But a culture basically involves a number of people who are engaging in this type of conduct. And now, in this particular allegation, it's the best I can ascertain, there's only two individuals that they're naming here. One is Mr. Herman Jones, who, like I said, is the superintendent of the Highway Patrol, and the other one is the assistant superintendent. Now, they're claiming that it is a hostile workplace, and then there's a couple of other highway patrolmen men that have also been involved now in a lawsuit, and they, to the best of my knowledge, are claiming that it is a toxic workplace. Now, like I said, I don't know the race of any of these people. I don't know the political affiliation of any of these people. However, as I've been following this story for the last at least 1 year, I do have some suspicions. And that doesn't mean they're true. That does not mean that Mr. Jones and the assistant and maybe others are not guilty. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I have reasons to have my suspicions about this case in particular. And I'm going to tell you what they are. Number one, this is not the first case that I've seen that is very much similar to this one. If some of you might recall, about, I don't know, around the first part of the year, maybe around April, somewhere in there, in Kinley, North Carolina, an entire police department walked off the job, turned in their resignations because a Black female had been hired by the town of roughly 1,500 people. Black female was hired as the new city manager. Now, in less than 60 days on the job, these officers resigned and said that their reason for resigning was because of a hostile and toxic workplace. So basically, what I'm saying here is, and I don't have any proof, and they're certainly not going to admit it, but the same thing could apply here to Mr. Jones. Having been appointed as the first Black superintendent of the Kansas Highway Patrol, there's bound to be some people on the Highway Patrol that do not like the idea of having a Black man at the top of the food chain. Now, like I said, they're not going to admit that, but what they do instead, they say it's become a toxic, hostile workplace. Now, Mr. Jones, I know for a fact that the Kansas Highway Patrol had some problems before Mr. Jones was ever appointed to that position. Now, why is it that the workplace only became hostile and toxic in the time between March of 2019, when Mr. Jones was appointed, and 2023? And I'm not sure of the exact date. I'm not 2023, 2021, when the lawsuit was filed. But anyhow, could it be that this could be politically motivated? Could it be that this could be racially motivated? Now, first, before I go any further, let me say one thing. I want to say this to all of you men out there in the workplace. Keep your hands off these women at the workplace. Don't touch them. Keep your hands off of them. Because in this day and age, in the state of what's going on in this country between women and men, it is too easily to set yourself up for a charge of unwanted touching and sexual harassment. You have to even be careful today about telling a woman in the workplace that she looks good, she smells good, whatever. You have to be careful. It is too easy to fall into a bad situation. So don't touch the women, period. In the workplace, keep your hands off of them. Now, in this particular case, uh, these women, there's now 5 of them. Some of them are still employed by the Kansas Highway Patrol, but they were offered mediation and they refused mediation. Now, for what reason, I don't know. But what brought this to my attention recently was the state of Kansas has filed subpoenas against a Kansas City television station seeking to have the TV station turn over unpublished interviews that they have had with these women. Now, these women so far have been unnamed. And I want to tell you, while I'm not a newscaster, I'm not a journalist, I'm a podcaster. But there are rules that apply amongst what broadcasters have to turn over. And one of those things is the law states that they do not have to turn over information regarding informants or people that they have interviewed to protect their sources. Now, as a podcaster, I don't know if I actually fall into those same rules or not, but I can tell you I was promise those people confidential. Otherwise, a lot of the information we get, we would not receive. Same way with the television station, the radio station, you know? So it's very doubtful that the state is going to get the information they're seeking here. But that basically, to me, is the least of their worries. What they have to do is we're going to have discovery. And I think the case is now in this discovery process. And so they're going to have to go through discovery to try to get the information that they want. And without that, hey, I don't know what else we're going to do. That's up to the attorneys. Attorneys would have to handle that. Now, but in addition, as I said, in addition to these females that have filed these sexual harassment, unwanted touching, a culture of sexual harassment and retaliation, there also, as I stated, are some highway patrol officers that have now seen fit to get involved and claim that they were retaliated against for taking the side of these females. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But then some of them are claiming that it now has become a toxic workplace. And this, as I stated, is just another tool that they will use to get around saying racial discrimination, okay, because they don't want to use that word. They don't want to say it's discrimination against having the black man at the top of the food chain. So they're going to use this toxic, okay, hostile workplace. So I find it unusual that it only, even though, like I said, there have been substantiated problems with the Kansas Highway Patrol for a long period of time before Mr. Jones ever was appointed as superintendent. So are you telling me and expecting me to believe that everything in the Kansas Highway Patrol administration was okie dokie until Mr. Jones came along as was appointed as the superintendent? And if so, you're going to have to come up with some proof, and you're going to have to come up with some substantiated evidence, which thus far you have not uh, uh, put forth. Like I said, an outside law firm has done an independent investigation into these charges, these allegations, and they have found no substance to them. So, and I can't imagine but to help that this is why the number of 6 women is now reduced to 5. Okay. And I think probably after discovery, it will probably more than likely be reduced to 0. Because just hearsay, just your word, which used to be at one point in time enough to send a black man to jail, this is 2022. You need more than that. You need some proof. You need some evidence. You need something that a jury can listen to, can look at, and then come to a unanimous conclusion that your evidence carries any weight. Without that, I don't see this case going anywhere. Now, as to the highway patrolmen, they want to talk about, they were, well, a couple of them, one of them said that he was given an ultimatum to resign or be fired. He chose to resign. Another one said that Mr. Jones brought to him a scripted resignation letter for him to sign, and he signed it. Now he wants his job back. At the time he retired, I assume he was a major. He wants his job back as a major without having proven, without a shadow of evidence, that he resigned involuntarily. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't work like that anymore. You have to prove. You have to prove your allegations. And if you're alleging that you resigned because of a toxic workplace, you've got to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Otherwise, it's your word against Mr. Jones's word. And I'm sure that Mr. Jones has some backing in his reasons for asking for your resignation. That goes for both of you. So I don't know all of the details in this story, but I'm just basically giving you a commentary on what I have gleaned from watching this story over the past year or so. And I want to tell you, I can't, as I said before, I can't speak to Mr. Jones' innocence or guilt. I'm not saying either way. I don't have enough evidence. I've not seen any proof, and neither has a court of law. And based on that, my commentary is the same as I said at the beginning. In this particular case, I have reasons to doubt the timing of these allegations. I have reason to doubt based on the race of the females that are making these allegations, as well as the political affiliations. Now, I do know that one of the troopers was was appointed by former Governor Sam Brownback, and he was a holdover in the Kelly administration. So his background, having been appointed by Brownback, leads me to believe that he is a member of the Republican Party. And let's face the facts, ladies and gentlemen, we know where most members, I'm not going to say all, most members of the Republican Party are when it comes to having a black man or woman at the top of the food chain. So all I'm saying is, if during discovery you can prove your claims and your allegations, and using the word a culture of sexual harassment, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to come up with more than Mr. Herman Jones and his superintendent. I don't think that's going to work, but you can try it. Good luck to you. I'm James Barfield.